All right, Stochastic, here we go. It's your old pal EMac coming to you at a rare 6:30 start here on Saturday. No late games tonight. One 7:30, one 8 o'clock, and then three. And I'm trying to find where our recording is there. Is that producer?
Jacob, can you mute yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah, all good.
That's all right. I had a window open too, and I'm like, oh, this is muted. Why is this still? Why can I hear myself? Well, on an 8-second delay. Here we go. In any event, one game at 7:30, two or one at 8, and then three at 8:30. I think is how this breaks down tonight. So we should have all of the pertinent news that we need. We're getting some stuff trickling in. We just saw that Brook Lopez has been ruled out tonight with personal reasons, so we'll be getting that updated in the projections here shortly. The 7 o'clock game is Golden State at Atlanta. We're still waiting on DeJounte Murray information. The 8 o'clock game is Sacramento at Chicago. We did find out that Kobe White is available to play. And then the other three games are at 8 o'clock. So there's a decent chance we could get some information on those confirmed as we continue along here. But Greg, how are you doing? It's similar, knocking on wood, slate to what we looked at this morning. Nothing too drastically.
Well, Brook Lopez just ruled out. That's a pretty big change, and it came from nowhere. It wasn't even on the injury report, and now
big,
he's
like
out.
Tall because he's tall.
No? Well, he also plays a lot of minutes for the Bucks. He's a center, so now I guess so there's a couple of different ways that they could end up going with this. I'm curious to see if we get a starting lineup that comes out soon. I assume they start Bobby Portis at center, though. We could bring Rich in to ask him as well. I'm also a little upset because of a missed opportunity, because not to pile on Jacob right here, but he accidentally forgot to mute himself when we started the show. In hindsight, I wish I did not address it and waited for you to address it, EMac, and then pretended I didn't hear anything and just made it seem like you were going crazy. That would have been really entertaining to me. But unfortunately, I missed the boat on that. I was more focused on trying to figure out what is it that the Bucks could possibly do here to fill the minutes of Brook Lopez. We know he has his brother Robin Lopez on the team. Maybe they make him a fake starter for the game and they do one of those deals where Robin Lopez starts but plays like 18 minutes. But I think the bulk of the center minutes are going to be played by Bobby Portis. I know Rich is updating the projections right now, so I wouldn't mind going to Rich and seeing what his opinion is on this. But I do think we're going to get Bobby Portis in play, and he was somebody who I was not considering at all before this, and now he becomes a very, very strong option.
Yeah, that's exactly where I'm headed to, Greg. Going against Dallas, who doesn't really have a great center to begin with, but Derek Lively, I guess their good center, is out tonight already. So there's really no reason to have to play like a true like center at that position tonight against, Maxi Kleber, Derek Jones, Grant Williams, Rashawn Holmes, whoever Dallas decides to throw out there. So I think Bobby Portis will play a lot, and then they can always just put Giannis at the 5 if and when they need be while Bobby Portis is out.
Yeah, and do you expect Portis to start or just play the bulk of the center minutes? Because I'm just expecting him to start and probably play like 32-ish minutes or something like that. But I could also see the scenario where they go with Robin Lopez in like one of those fake starter situations.
Yeah, if they announce Robin Lopez is starting, I'd have a hard time seeing him play more than like 16 minutes tops. I'm fully expecting Bobby Portis to start, and I actually have him at like 31 and a half minutes now, but I'm just trying to see how this whole rotation would work out like that, because that would mean generally that other guys would get a few more minutes, the guys like Pat Connaughton or maybe even Beauchamp or something like that.
Yeah, and then what is 31 minutes for Bobby Portis at his current points per minute rate? Was it put him around like 34 fantasy points or so?
That would put him, around 32, I believe.
Gotcha. Yeah, so Bobby Portis, and let's see, the price point on Portis, once again, not somebody that we were considering at all until just as the show started. So Bobby Portis is $5,800 on DraftKings, certainly puts him into play there. And on FanDuel, he is $5,500. So on a smaller slate, Bobby Portis, certainly somebody who comes into play. Is there anybody else that this impacts on the Bucks, Rich?
I'm looking at Jay Crowder right now because he's one of those guys that, even though he's not very tall or very big, he can play. He could play, at least in this matchup tonight, play a little bit at the 5, or even, like I said, if they want to use Portis at the 5 while Giannis is off, they could throw Crowder in at the 4, or just move Giannis to the 5 and Crowder at the 4 during some non-Bobby, I want to call him POTUS, Bobby Portis minutes.
The president.
The president, Bobby POTUS.
Makes
So
sense
yeah,
to me. Makes
yep.
sense to me. So thanks for the insight there, Rich. And EMac, we could bring you back in. Sorry, I got excited to talk some projections with Rich there, EMac, because I know you were saying like, hey, the Brooke Lopez news. What does it matter? It matters to me, EMac. It matters to me.
Well, you know what? I did not know we went all the way down to half a minute. That is some precise. Now I know in our projections we go down to the tenths because you can see those on the projection page. But when we talk about this stuff on the shows, usually we're saying, we round just to the closest minute or whatever it might be. But I appreciate the precision there from Rich on that situation. Speaking of situations, it looks like there could be a little bit of overlay for those of you that are into the NASCAR streets. There is a race tonight. Stochastic does have some projections up for it, and I would be shocked if it fills by 8 o'clock. I will be shocked if it gets more than half fill by 8 o'clock because it snuck up on everybody. That's what it is. That's what happens. NHL All-Star festivities happen today, which means, of course, this is the Pro Bowl weekend, if you will. Not so much like what it was in the past, but we do have the Super Bowl coming up next week. So we're going to be all NBA all the time, but we also have some college basketball going on tonight as well. Matt Kajeski has posted projections for that. So we've got all the good stuff popping here at Stochastic. You guys are going to want to get behind the paywall. It is a good place to be. All righty, Greg. So aside from the surprise note there that we are missing, or that Lopez is going to be out, it looks like we still are waiting for the Lively Irving confirmation that they are out. We're waiting to see the coin flip on Derek Jones Jr. He's missed the last couple games. Jarrett Allen left the last game early with an ankle issue. That's an 8:30 game. He did practice, or it was a shoot around today or a walkthrough, but he was in attendance. So he's on the better side of questionable, though still questionable. We got an upgrade for both Zach Collins and Keldon Johnson. Oftentimes they sit on back-to-backs. Of course, San Antonio played last night, lost by 1 point to New Orleans. And then we've got the Anthony Davis, LeBron James, OG Anunoby triumvirate here that we're waiting for in the 8 o'clock or 8:30 window. Anything that else that you want to call out here on the injury front, other than Sadiq Bey confirmed out? I think that was the last one we had.
Yeah. So did you mention DeJounte Murray? I don't know. I can't.
He's questionable. Let's turn back to there since they are our first game.
Yeah. So one thing that I do want to add to this is Jarrett Allen is questionable, but he was at shoot around today, which is usually a pretty strong indication that somebody's going to end up playing. So I think he's going to play. But for a lot of the other guys, it is really up in the air situations, and we're going to be reacting to the news as we go here.
All righty. Let's see what else. What other fun do we have tonight? Oh, well, of course we are sponsored here tonight, which always makes it fun, because it is key to get that good money. So Sleeper is our sponsor tonight. And if you have not yet signed up to Sleeper, boy, do we have a deal for you. You get up to a $500 deposit match. This is a pick'em site. You also get a free square tonight. Luka Doncic scoring more than half a point. That's a pretty savvy wager. So whenever you sign up for any sites, figure out what their best deals are, because that is going to help you with your ROI and give you a little boost to that proverbial bankroll as you get ready to embark on some fun. Key things that they have there at Sleeper, you can craft your player cards up to a 100 times payout, which is pretty cool. They also have milestone stat categories like double doubles and triple doubles for the NBA. They have home runs and other doubles and triples once we get into MLB. That's kind of a unique look there. And then they have their dynamic payouts. You can go into their site, and a lot of their offerings, you can choose to go set things even higher. So for example, if we had Trae Young at 28.5 points tonight, and you felt that was a little bit high, but you thought he'd get close to that, you could knock that down to 26.5 and take the over, but then you'd have a reduced payout. So that's not on all their offerings, but it's on quite a few of them. And that can go in both directions here. So it's kind of an interesting wrinkle over there on Sleeper. They're available on the mobile devices in all of the usual places where you youngsters go find mobile apps. I don't even know what those are anymore, Greg. This doesn't call the Apple Store anymore, is it?
I mean,
Google Play?
I just call it the App Store, and I figure people know what I'm talking about.
Okay, there we go. There we go. Well, I have my handy phone here, so I do have a Sleeper. It's a fun site to play on there. That $500.
What's your phone number, EMac? I don't have your phone number.
It is 425-417-1234.
Damn, I was really hoping you were going to give out your real phone number on the stream.
I didn't.
If I could have duped you into giving out your phone number, and all of a sudden people started texting during the show, that would have made my night. But a little bit too clever for that, unfortunately.
No, I wasn't thinking quick enough. I did the 1, 2, 3, 4. I should have said the prefix is 555, right? Like they do on TV in the movies. But no. Alrighty, here. Let's see what else is progressing here.
So we got some news that came in. Most notably, DeJounte Murray is going to play today. So DeJounte Murray was questionable. He's going to be in. We also got word here that Sasha Veznikov, he's been ruled out. That's not going to have a massive impact on the slate. He's missed the last few games, but still notable that he is going to be out. And then DeAndre Hunter, he is also going to be in. That was also news that came out just as the Brook Lopez was ruled out, but just grouping it together because we got the DeJounte Murray news. So relevant to bring up DeAndre Hunter as well.
All right, we've got a membership chat here. That's if you have the Stochastic YouTube membership, you get a membership chat per month. The dude, he says McBride or Crowder, and would that change after we get the OG Anunoby news? So is how do you feel about McBride tonight? I think is a good way to start. You hit a little bit on Crowder, or actually Rich did. Rich forgot to just say the easy thing, revenge. When it comes to Jay Crowder, if he remembers he played for Dallas, that is. But how are you feeling about McBride, who listed as a point guard, doesn't get many assists, Greg?
Yeah, so this does very much depend on the status of OG Anunoby. As of right now, I'm going to say Jay Crowder. It's very close, though, between Jay Crowder and Miles McBride. These are both guys who are viable, but not really high priority punt options. If I'm choosing between one or the other, it is Jay Crowder as of now. If OG Anunoby is out, though, it would be pretty clearly Miles McBride for me. If you look at the depth chart for the Knicks, they do not have very many healthy bodies. And on top of that, you have to consider that they have a coach in Tom Thibodeau who does not like to run deep rotations. He generally has a handful of guys that he trusts, and he doesn't like to go too deep into his bench. So when we already have Quentin Grimes is out for tonight, we've got Mitchell Robinson who's been out for forever. Julius Randle is out for the next couple of weeks. And then you've got OG Anunoby who's questionable, and Anunoby has missed recent games. However, keep in mind that we have had Quentin Grimes pick up some of those extra minutes. If OG Anunoby is out as well, I just don't know where else the Knicks are potentially going to go for minutes here. So Miles McBride is somebody who I think we could expect to play very, very healthy minutes off the bench for the Knicks if OG Anunoby is not out there. So for now, Jay Crowder, Miles McBride if Anunoby is out.
All right, that is actually a good call out there. And an inflamed elbow. There's got to be more to it than that, because he's already missed 3, and this could be game 4. Greg, I'm starting to be a little bit concerned there without Anunoby and Randall. These Knicks in your neighborhood, if you will, are going to find the path to the Eastern Conference Championship much harder if they're not able to bank some wins here and get home court while missing those 2 fellows. So very, very disappointing there. Who are you looking at as the player you're just not getting to with the current iteration of The Sims? Earlier today, it was, if I remember correctly, it was all about Doncic, less about Giannis. Is that still holding true at this point?
So I have to rerun everything for the Bucks news. So I don't have a clear answer for you at the moment. I can look at the last sim that I ran, except that's not going to be taking the Bobby Portis consideration into account. But let's see. So the last
so we have a hot minute. Let's use that as a comparison so you can see how dramatic, or the audience can see how dramatically things change on what I offhandedly said was not that big of a piece of news.
Yeah, so as of this moment, the players that I am underweight to the field on most aggressively are Klay Thompson and Draymond Green. They're both projected for around 20% ownership. Draymond Green around 20, Klay Thompson around 25. And those were guys who I was well underweight to the field to. I had 8% of Klay Thompson, 6% of Draymond Green. I've become a pretty strong believer that not that we're going to see Kuminga continue to shoot 55% from three, which he's done the last couple of weeks, but I do believe he's somebody who's going to continue to be a disruptor as far as the playing time and the usage goes in the starting lineup for the Warriors. And the two guys I think he impacts the most going forward are Draymond Green and Klay Thompson, so both them being fairly popular, two players that I'm underweight to. In addition to that, it is the first game of the slate, and we have a bunch of players that are currently listed as questionable. So I'm not breaking any kind of news here. People know how I play NBA DFS. We've been watching all our shows. If there are players that are fairly popular in the first game of a slate, when there is a slate that projects to have a whole bunch of potential value on it because players are questionable, I prefer to go underweight to some of those guys in the first couple games of the night. So that's where I fall on guys like Draymond Green and Klay Thompson.
All right. Another one that's kind of an interesting dichotomy is now that we do know that Kobe White is in, you've got Alex Caruso and Ayo Dosunmu. They were coming in on opposite of each other on DraftKings and FanDuel, which sort of in the beginning of the day made them interesting to go conversely because they're just essentially close enough to being direct leverage off one of another there in tournaments. Are they going to be coming up into your lineups, Greg, or do you think they're going to start to slide out?
Could you repeat that again?
How do you feel about Dosunmu and Caruso, knowing that Kobe White is in?
Yeah, so they are still guys that are playable, but my preferred options from the Bulls are going to be DeMar DeRozan and Nikola Vucevic. As far as Dosunmu goes, he's a good cash play and he's viable for tournaments, but he's expected to be super, super popular today. And I do think the ownership is a little bit too high, but let's see if we have updated ownership for the Bobby Portis situation now, because the ownership that I was looking at from before is probably a little bit different now if that's been updated. Let's see. Yeah, so we've got Portis now projected for 18% ownership. Did that impact Dosunmu at all? Dosunmu still 35%. Quick question for Rich. Is the most recent ownership taking into account the Bucks news?
So I ran in it updated, but I'm also running one right now that I think will better reflect the Bucks news, if that makes sense.
Yep. Yeah, I know you're getting at there. So the short news here, EMac, is that we currently have Dosunmu at 35%. I still expect him to be popular, but I do think that number is probably to come down a little bit, which is going to have me maybe a little bit closer in line with Dosunmu with the field here, because he is somebody who's a pretty strong cash play. I just think he's a little bit too highly owned by the field, but that obviously could change if the ownership comes down. Oh, we also got some more super chats here if you want to hit on those, EMac.
Absolutely. Get back over to that. Go with the fun fan filtering option here. Oh, Ace of Spades is checking in, so we'll make sure we circle around on that. Would you prefer to talk about that now, or would you like to go with your under the radar single entry DK play first?
Let's go with Ace of Spade, because he did ask the question first, so I think he gets a little bit of priority. And also shout out to Chris Williams, gifted out 5 YouTube memberships. Chris, always appreciate you supporting the channel there. But Ace of Spade asking his normal question, DK tiers, his favorite options. And I bring this up all the time. EMac should be living in the tiers streets. That's right up EMac's alley, but he just poo-poos it. He refuses. Tier 1's going to be the easiest thing ever. We have Luka Doncic as an option there. He projects for a gazillion fantasy points tonight. We've got him over 70. And you don't have to worry about pricing at all in tier. So he's the easy option to go with here in Tier 1. Tier 2, that is going to be Trae Young for me. Tier 3, Steph Curry. Tier 4, Nikola Vucevic. Tier 5, Dante DiVincenzo. Tier 6. And by the way, I'm going to say that it is very close between DiVincenzo and Kuminga. So you guys could go with either one of those there, but I do lean towards DiVincenzo. And then tier 6, I'm going with Isaiah Hartenstein, who's also a good option for classic contests.
Alrighty, that is good to go. I'm just finishing up my placeholder lineup, which I'm sure will immediately be destroyed with our next bit of news here, but I wanted to lock that in.
We did get more news, by the way.
Let's circle back on that, and then we'll get your single entry option here. So the key news here coming in for Dallas: confirmed Kyrie Irving out as expected, Derek Lively out as expected with his nasal fracture, Derek Jones in. He had missed the last 3 games with the sprained wrist, and then Maximilian Kleber will also be in Still, are we still liking Bobby Portis?
So you didn't even hit on the news I cared about. So the news I cared about was that Anunoby was ruled out. So Anunoby not playing, that's going to be really impactful for the Knicks right now, because we were talking about it before. The limited amount of play, and also circling back on that super chat we had before, I gave kind of the parameters of it to the Dude Shop 88, where he'd asked McBride or Jay Crowder. Well, now I could say McBride over Jay Crowder with OG Anunoby ruled out. You look at who the Knicks are going to give significant minutes to: Brunson, DiVincenzo, Hartenstein, Hart, Precious Achiuwa, Miles McBride. There's going to be other guys off the bench. They're not going to run a 6-man rotation. There's going to be other players off the bench that have to fill minutes. I suspect that Jericho Sims will get playing time. Evan Fournier could enter the rotation tonight. But these are not guys that I think are going to play 30 minutes or anything like that. The core group of guys, that core six: Brunson, DiVincenzo, Hartenstein, Hart, Achiuwa, McBride, these guys are all going to play very significant minutes tonight. The Knicks are a very strong team to target against the Lakers. And now we have to find out, are they going to be playing the Lakers with Anthony Davis and LeBron James? Or are they going to be sitting out as they did the last game? And is it going to be backups in there for the Lakers, which would make this a more favorable matchup for the Knicks? One thing that's nice about this as well, EMac, is now that we have all this Knicks value, we're going to be, getting to a whole bunch of exposure to the Knicks when I run my next update. And my last update isn't even finished running, which now is like totally who even cares? It's just continuously rebuilding lineups in the contest generator in the Sims tool. But now that we have all this value that's for the Knicks, what's great about it is now we're just going to naturally get to a lot of Knicks exposure. It's going to make it so much easier to react to the Lakers news should those guys end up being ruled out.
Yeah, absolutely. And even with this compressed window, there's still an advantage as you're building lineups to keep that maneuverability here. Again, all the games are going off inside of 1 hour here. There's a 7:30 game, an 8 o'clock game, and 3 8:30 games. No late night hammers tonight. And the sites aren't even cutting it off. There just aren't any tonight or tomorrow, and a little bit of a scheduling quirk there. So always be on your toes. We'll hit that. We'll wait for a few things to come through, and then we'll talk about that single entry play, so I'm not forgetting that. But before I forget, I want to remind everybody that you can sign up for the Stochastic Lineup Generator. That is a standalone package here that allows you to get the lineup generator for the main slates on both FanDuel and DraftKings, also potentially showdown slates, depending on how large those end up being. But at least you're getting those main slates. You also get access to Discord, which is rather helpful with everybody. And we've seen the screenshots coming from these. Very nice. So if you want to build a quick competitive lineup, you're coming home from work, wife wants you to take garbage out, get dinner ready, watch the kids for a second, all you got to do is sneak away for a hot minute, run a couple lineups, enter those into contests, and after everybody's in bed and you're kicking back with that second tasty beverage, you'll have a sweat going on because you haven't built crappy lineups. That is the beauty of the lineup generator. Plus you get to talk to Greg all night in chat because he is in the Discord and you get access to that with the lineup generator. All right, Craig. I knew I was going to do that at some point because I've been hearing Tory Craig tonight. I almost did it on the early show today. But Greg, we had a host at one point that called you Craig, didn't we?
Yeah, you.
No. I would remember me doing that.
I don't think you would.
All right. Well, why don't you run with this for a minute? I got some prune juice I need to go grab real quick, and I'll put a little Metamucil in it. So if you can run with this for a hot minute, I would appreciate it. And I got to remember where I left that Ginkgo Balboa.
All right. So EMac's going to go take a shit right now. And don't worry though, guys. I could man this by myself. No problem here in the interim. So we've got some super chats as well as questions that are in the Discord channel. And I'm also going to have to update my lineups once we get the next ownership update and everything that comes through here. Lots of news that has been changing here, but we've got Rich Scoop. By the way, do you actually have to go somewhere?
No, I was just goofing around there.
I assumed you had to take a piss.
No, I take care of those things before the show.
Oh, well, every once in a while, nature calls. You have to go to the bathroom.
Well, knock on wood. Hopefully not tonight. And the only thing I have are coughing issues. But
plus, you're older. There's the incontinence. I mean, there's all kinds of things going on.
Or you could be constipated. You never know, right? It goes in all directions here. But enough about that. Let's talk about the good shit.
Well, we've got drugs.
Oh, Craig, bring Craig back. That's all I can say.
We've got a lot of questions in Discord. We've got super chats here to answer as well.
I got the super chats. You got the Discord.
Okay, I already read the super chat. I'll let you do it though.
Well, the key thing is the under the radar single entry play. We've been putting that one on hold for Brett Shoop there. So are you ready to talk about that one? And that could also transition into Corey Shea's favorite question. Give me the top tournament plays across the positions.
All right. So let's start with under the radar plays. So we did get an update on Bobby Portis here. There's still updates to come on the Knicks as well. If Bobby Portis is only going to be 22% owned on DraftKings, that's the current projected ownership on him. FanDuel is expected to be massively popular. FanDuel is projected for 68.4% ownership. So on FanDuel, clearly not an under the radar play. But on DraftKings, if he's only going to be 22% owned, that is somebody I like quite a bit in tournaments there in Bobby Portis. There is a lot of variability to his playing time and minutes tonight, but there's an obvious upside as well. And that's something I'm looking to capture in tournaments. So Bobby Portis for DraftKings tournaments and single entry.
And then across the rest of the positions, Luka probably number one by far. I'm guessing that is kind of the building block here. I was waiting for the next round of projections to come through. It's interesting to see on the different sites. This is going to shake out just a little bit, but this is how you can look at different things. Earlier today, if you ran Luka Doncic, he was in the optimal lineup, or the highest scoring projected lineup. If you ran that lineup with Luka and Antetokounmpo on each of the sites, it reacted differently. DraftKings, I think it dropped about 3 points. FanDuel, it dropped about 6 points. If you ended up running lineups without neither of them in the lineup, at that point, you still could get within 3 points of the optimal lineup. So it's important to know how the different things work, and just check that stuff out. Even if you're not big into ownership, leverage, all that stuff, just see what the different things are, because all too often in the NBA, people get hung up on chalk and what's not chalk. You can build perfectly good lineups. They may not have that optimal boom. It may not quite have the best median projection, but scatter plot is the name of the game when it comes to sports and the results. So this is something that you want to think about as you're constructing lineups. Of course, if you get the Sims package, it's doing all of this for you. But just quickly calling out, because those are some of the rudimentary questions that Greg has been fielding in Discord about how the Sims work. All right, Greg. Sorry. So Luka number one, clearly. What do you have at shooting guard?
Yeah, so Luka at point guard. Shooting guard for me is currently, so I have to make some assumptions too here about how my exposures are going to change for the most recent news. So shooting guard, I'm going to go with Dante DiVincenzo. Small forward, I'm going to go with Jonathan Kuminga. Power forward, that is going to be, I'll go Bobby Portis. And then center, Richaun Holmes.
So Holmes, we didn't really mention that much. Rich sort of alluded to him as the cast of thousands that could be manning the center position there. He has disappeared over the last couple of seasons. I believe he has like 3 starts and about 60 appearances between this year and then last year in his final season with the Kings. He is still a fantasy point per minute producer when he gets the minutes. His defense is the old proverbial Olay defense, in that it is really non-existent, and just he needs that fantasy point per minute to even remain close to neutral against the opposing front courts here. But he is someone that was looking like a really good fantasy option until we ended up getting Bobby Portis as well. He will cost you the center slot on FanDuel, which makes it interesting. DraftKings, of course, we do have that utility slot, but Richaun Holmes, I think, is still going to end up being in the picture tonight, but it'll be fun to see where the dust settles for us.
Yeah, so Richaun Holmes started last game. I expect that's going to be the case again. He remains fairly cheap, which is why he projects as such a good value option.
All righty. Do you have any more Discord?
Oh, yeah, there's lots of Discord questions here. So let's go into Discord and see what we could touch on here. EMac, the first one is coming to us from, oh, this is going to be confusing because now I'm getting notifications with MMA questions and NBA, but it's all right. We'll navigate this. Mr. Coolcam wants to know our favorite players at each position on FanDuel EMac. So let's go ahead and check out the FanDuel side of things. And all right, so
get
for
that
FanDuel,
uploaded, I will be able to participate as well.
Oh, look at you. Okay, so for FanDuel,
Yep,
you good to go?
I'm good to go.
Okay, so for FanDuel, we can go back and forth position by position. For FanDuel, for me at point guard, that is going to be Luka.
Yeah, absolutely no question about that. As we start to move towards shooting guard, this is where Alex Caruso becomes interesting at 5,800, as does Dante DiVincenzo. So that's kind of your point guard, shooting guard, small forward to cover those. But those would be my two favorites on FanDuel, and we have to play two of them. So that's why you're seeing their popularity.
Shooting guard for me, that is going to be Dante DiVincenzo. EMac, what do you have at small forward?
Small forward, well, if I can't play Dante DiVincenzo, I do think Jonathan Kuminga is rather interesting. And then if you are looking for a little bit of savings from a point per dollar perspective with the upside, I think is Chris Middleton. With Lopez out, there could be a few more rebounds that he has access to, one or two extra field goal attempts. And he is someone that is about a 1.2 fantasy point per minute guy over his last month on FanDuel here, or at least since I guess it's almost mid January there, tossing that Cleveland game. So he would be my guy, Middleton.
For me at small forward, I am going to go with DeMar DeRozan. EMac, power forward.
Precious Achiuwa, I think, gets the nod here. He is center only. I was trying to build up my Yahoo lineups, but Precious Achiuwa here, I think, is the way I would like to go on DraftKings. He continues to step in and get mid-teens for field goal attempts. He has double-digit rebound potential. He's at live for a double-double. I think anything less than 30 fantasy points would be a disappointment, and we just saw him crest over the 40 fantasy point plateau, so I like him tonight.
I'm going to go with Bobby Portis at power forward, Precious Achiuwa at center. So I have a feeling there's a good chance you just are going to have those reversed EMac, but for yourself, it's center.
If I have to go different, I think Nikola Vucevic is semi-intriguing. It's a little harder now that we obviously have Portis, but if we look at the center-only plays, it's almost a coin flip for me on FanDuel between him and Richaun Holmes.
Okay, so there you have it for you guys. And then got another super chat that came in, and then I'll queue up some more Discord questions after we hit on that one.
All righty, so building one lineup, Steve Simon would like to know Luka or Giannis?
Luka.
Single entry, DraftKings.
Luka, no doubt about it. If you could pay up for anybody today, the answer is Luka Doncic. Any other super chats there?
No, I wanted to see how long you'd let the dead air go there. I was watching Jacob's face, watching the concern grow on Jacob's face there. Is he not frozen? What are we going to do right now?
Yeah, we got a lot going on. Also, I don't know, like, hey, is EMac gonna? Because I know you still got that poo going on over there. Because you don't know. You don't know. Seriously though, would you consider wearing Depends? Not like now, because I know I joke about how old EMac is. I know he's not that old. So say like 2 years from now, would you consider wearing Depends?
Only if they have pictures of Mr. Hanky on them. You're familiar with Mr. Hanky, I believe, correct?
Oh, of course, the Christmas poop.
Absolutely.
Absolutely,
he's the Christmas poop. Yeah, if you need to take care of things, yes. If you have incontinent issues, that would be one way to address them.
Some questions in Discord here. Tensley 207, Precious or Bobby Portis? Straight up for a single entry. I'm going to go towards Bobby Portis. I do think that there's probably a little bit more security with Precious Achiuwa, but I like the upside better from Bobby Portis. Then we have seen Precious Achiuwa. He was great last game, but in general, his points per minute production has been lower as a starter this year. Both of them good options. Two players I'm going to have a good amount of, but I do lean a little bit more towards Bobby Portis. And then we've got Captain Akella, who's asking us, who is one guy that we're playing in a single entry today? Once again, that is going to be Bobby Portis for me. Do you have a preferred single entry target tonight, EMac?
Let's think about this quickly. He's going to be popular. I like Dante DiVincenzo. If you're looking to get really different, one way to do that would be to go with Nikola Vucevic, because we're talking about a lot of the best point per dollar plays are coming from the front court there, specifically with center eligibility. So those would be the two I'd be looking at.
Yep, makes sense to me. Dante DiVincenzo is certainly going to be popular, but it's very, very much warranted. So I understand making him a priority in all formats, including single entry. The next question that we have here, It is coming to us from Crean. He wants to know, do we think Giannis moves to center and Crowder moves to the 4 so that could keep the bench together? It's a possibility. Let me just double check to see if we got a starting lineup, which we have not yet. But it wouldn't be the most stunning thing in the world to me if we saw Giannis start at center and Jay Crowder ended up playing power forward as the starter. We'll see. I think that's one of the iterations they could go to. I will guarantee you that we see Giannis center minutes at some point during the course of the game. My best guess, though, is going to be Bobby Portis starts at center. If he doesn't, I'm going to have to reconfigure some of my lineups here. Next question is from 6Raiden6. He says that, so he is, I'm trying to figure out who this is he's playing. He's saying he's getting to a bunch of Lester the Molester. What are your thoughts? Eric is not on the slate tonight. Not you, the other Eric EMac. Miami High Life. Any positive or negative ROI boost tonight? I would have if we went into the slate with Anthony Davis and LeBron James both questionable and us not having the Knicks news either. No real need to try to situate your lineups specifically for the Lakers late swap scenarios, because if you're building lineups in the contest generator and in the Sims tool, you're going to be getting yourself to a lot of Knicks exposure. It's going to make it very, very easy to make any pivots to Lakers guys once that news comes out about LeBron James and Anthony Davis. So no real need, considering that we're going to be getting to a bunch of the Knicks, going to give us the flexibility that we're already getting to here. And then Dominic Cubano asked a similar question. What is the late swap maneuver you're prioritizing / planning for? Yeah, just play a bunch of the Knicks. Easiest way to do it. Easiest way to do it.
Merrill Peak, if you want to put in your super chat there, we can answer that one. I've got my eye out there for it. He did offer up a $5 super chat here, so I suspect there will be a question following. TBM would like 3 core DK plays.
3 core DK plays.
Doncic, DiVincenzo, and I'm hoping Rashawn Holmes.
Yeah, Rashawn Holmes as well, assuming he starts.
And that's going to be the key thing. If can we bring Rich in and ask him what he thinks the front court is going to look like here?
I'm going to bet, based on our projections, that he's going to say Rashawn Holmes, but we could certainly bring him in.
All right, let's bring Rich in. A little bit about the front court. Are you worried about Kleber? If Kleber starts, does that become an issue here? Is Kleber going to play around 20 minutes? And does he become a late slate option, that 3-game, 8:30 sub slate?
Would Kleber become a late slate option?
What would it take for Kleber to become an option here?
On the late slate specifically?
Yes.
I think he's an option right now. I think he's pretty locked in whether he starts or not, around 18 to low 20 minutes. Since he's come back from that injury, he hasn't been playing more than like 21, 22 minutes generally. I don't see them starting him because I really just don't think he'll play more than that. So if you started him, it just kind of makes some rotations very weird.
That makes sense because they sort of have limited his minutes with that toe injury, back-to-backs, etc. And then this ties into kind of our super chat here from Merrill Peak. Rashawn Holmes, let's assume he starts. How do you balance him against Onyeka Okongwu? And then my co-host on the earlier show today thought Okongwu and Capella may end up getting some minutes together here. How are you feeling about Holmes, and lead us into Okongwu?
So I think they're definitely going to start Rashawn Holmes because not only has Maxi Kleber been trying to come back from that toe injury, they also have Derrick Jones coming back from his injury. So if they were to start one of those guys at the 5, then I guess the other one couldn't really start at the 4. I just don't see either of them playing 30 minutes or more. So the way I think it's going to break down is Rashawn Holmes will most likely start. I also would not be well, I guess now since Brook Lopez is out, I was going to say there might be a chance that Dwight Powell even starts, but with Brook Lopez being out, I don't see that being an option anymore. So I think Rashawn Holmes I'm 90% certain he'll start. Dwight Powell will just play some backup center minutes. And then Kleber and Derrick Jones will primarily play the 4. Maybe they stagger, those guys for a few minutes here and there, one of those guys at the 5. But I do think Kleber's in play, especially because of the matchup with Milwaukee at a pretty quick pace. They'll give up some open looks from 3, stuff like that.
All right. And do you, if you're rolling with Holmes or Okongwu, is it Holmes? And then do Okongwu and Capella see greater than 48 combined minutes?
I do think they see more than 48 combined minutes. They've been doing that not too often, but they have been doing it, and I think that that could definitely be a strength of Atlanta against Golden State, who lacks like a good big down there, you know. Um, what was it, Holmes versus Okongwu? I would go Holmes if it's Holmes versus Okongwu in a 1v1. I mean, Holmes' price tag is still too cheap for the role he's going to be playing tonight, so Holmes for me.
All righty. And then another super chat. We'll launch this one over to you, Greg, here. Middleton or Kuminga?
Let's see. So I've got some stuff updated. By the way, going to circle back on a question from before, the Precious Achiuwa versus Bobby Portis. I am overweight to the field on Bobby Portis, but I am finding myself getting to slightly more Achiuwa than Bobby Portis now that I have my lineups updated. So wanted to circle back on that. As far as this next question that we had, it was Middleton or Kuminga. Yeah, that is Jonathan Kuminga for me.
Right. Let's see if we had any other news popping in here. I think we already had the Hawks starting lineup, but that is going to be Garrison Matthews starting there tonight. So Trae Young, DeJounte Murray, Matthews, Jalen Johnson, and then Clint Capella. Does Matthews move the needle at all? I don't think so.
No.
All right.
No.
Jarrett Allen available to play. That was one of our other missing parts. So we're just down to Davis and LeBron James as our main moving parts here. Do you want to throw out any thoughts on Victor Wembanyama, since we may run out of time before we get to that end of the slate here?
No, I'd rather answer all the questions that we have in Discord channel, EMac. That's what I want to do right now. We've got 10 million questions piled up.
Well, this is why you're there, and we did just get the push for projections, both player popularity and projections.
We've got a question here from Clyde. Clyde is saying, "What is the my mom walked in on me play of the day? Who are you most ashamed to admit that you have an above average amount of?"
The bucket.
Let's see. Probably Miles McBride. I mean, I'm getting to a shit ton of Miles McBride. I would be, if my mom came into my office and was like, "Oh my God, you have Miles McBride in the majority of your lineups," I'd be fairly embarrassed by that. But I as we talked about before, I don't know where else the minutes go. Anybody like that for you, EMac? If your mom walked in on you and saw you doing your DFS lineups, number one, I'm sure she'd be confused by everything that's happening in general. But EMac, who would you be most embarrassed to admit to your mom you're playing a bunch of in DFS?
That would be crazy, since I dropped her and my wife off at the Tampa airport this morning at 4:30. That'd be real weird if they walked into the room here as I was doing the show. But probably Harrison Barnes. I can't believe I'm going back to him. I'm just finishing up my Yahoo lineup here. He's $10. He fits in perfectly. I'm going to see if I can find another $10 player, but it looks like it's Harrison Barnes. I don't think I'll be playing him on DraftKings.
Okay, so that is going to be Harrison Barnes from our old pal EMac here. The next question that we have in the Discord channel, it is coming to us from Gator Nation. Gator Nation wants to know, am I fading the first game? No, don't have to fade the first game today. We've got some value that's worth getting to in the first game on the slate, in particular Jonathan Kuminga. So no, it is a game that I'm getting exposure to. AK the Great wants to know my updated favorite players at each position. Yes, and I'm going to have a good answer for you because I've just finished going through all my lineups here. So now that I have everything updated here, at point guard is going to be Luka for me. EMac, for you, do you have DraftKings lineups built to answer who you like the most at each position? If not, it's fine. I'll just give out mine.
I do not have them built yet, but it's going to be Luka, DiVincenzo, Rashawn Holmes, and I'm curious to see where Middleton comes out in my lineups. I'm going to run those next thing.
All right. So for me, it is going to be Luka at point guard. At shooting guard, it is going to be the aforementioned Miles McBride. Small forward, that is Dante DiVincenzo for me. Power forward, that is going to be Jonathan Kuminga. And then at center, that is Precious Achiuwa for me, followed by Rashawn Holmes. So those are my most rostered guys at each position as of now.
Do you have any must plays from that first game? I'm assuming
Jonathan Kuminga is the player I have the most exposure to from the first game.
I didn't want to go without him. I figured that was the case here. All righty, so we got that updated. Ooh, got another question here.
And then Tensley asking Precious Achiuwa, Bobby Portis straight up. Yeah, I thought the answer was going to be Bobby Portis for me. And then after building my lineups out and looking at what my exposures are, the answer is Precious Achiuwa. Overweight to both of them, though. The next question here is from
that was the shocker is Portis is falling out. I thought for sure he'd be a slam dunk. How things have changed in 47 minutes here.
I'm overweight to Bobby Portis. I've got a lot of them. I just have more of Precious Achiuwa.
Oh, okay. Well,
next question here is from Jets World. Jets World wants to know, if Maxey starts, would you still play Holmes over him on DK? If Holmes comes off the bench and Maxey starts, my ownership is going to dramatically drop to Rashawn Holmes, because I'm currently expecting Rashawn Holmes to start. If he comes off the bench, well, I could only expect worse things out of him. So, yeah, I like Rashawn Holmes a good amount right now. He is in 37% of my lineups, but he is going to be, I can't say exactly what my exposure would be, but it's probably going to be pretty minimal to Rashawn Holmes if he comes off the bench. Next question is from Melissa H. Oh, EMac, your buddy. Melissa is playing 20 DK lineups tonight, and the Sims with no boost are giving her a ton of Miles McBride and Luka Doncic and no Giannis at all. Don't negative boost Miles McBride or Luka Doncic today. These are two players who I'm getting a whole bunch of. I like both of them.
Yeah, and the McBride is if you were on the other side, he's not going to appear. It's because he's so cheap and has dual eligibility on DraftKings. He's kind of a necessary evil.
Let's see what else we have coming in here. The next question is coming to us from Tensley. Another question from Tensley. Tensley is asking us, Precious and Trey Jones or Draymond and Herter. That's going to be Precious and Trey Jones for me. Then I Love Money is saying large field under-owned / sneaky play. Bobby Portis for me. Bobby Portis, I'm overweight too. I think that the field is a little bit lighter on him, not because of his average result, because of what the ceiling of Bobby Portis is. So Bobby Portis, somebody who I like there. Next question here. And were there any more super chats, EMac?
Yes, Portis. Oh, two. Portis or Precious?
What? Again, this question a lot today. Precious for me now.
And then best 5,300 guard or forward. That is from James Magruder. I don't know the site.
Okay. 5,300. And he said guard or forward?
Guard or forward.
Okay. So anything but the center then. And sorry, one more time. Can you tell me what that price point is as I'm looking over here?
53. 5-3.
53. That is going to be Ayo Dosunmu.
All right. And then Tyler Gill just chimed in. Any priority plays in the early game on FanDuel? I'm assuming that'll still be Kuminga.
Yeah, Kuminga.
All righty. That clears up our super chats.
So let's go back into Discord. And the next question that we have here is from, where did it go? Jansen's saying that he's getting a lot of Rashawn Holmes, 80%. Should he limit his exposure? Only if Holmes comes off the bench. If you're getting to a lot of Holmes and he starts, totally cool with it. If the starting lineup comes out and doesn't have Holmes in it, then you want to late swap and get off him. As of now, cool to have a lot of Rashawn Holmes. Then we've got a question here from M. Grizzly. He wants to know, is 100% of Miles McBride reasonable? That's what the Sims are getting to him. If you're going to take a big stand on a player, I said before, I have a lot of Miles McBride. He's the player I said I'd be most embarrassed to admit if my mom walked in and saw me playing a whole bunch of Miles McBride. I would be embarrassed about it. But yeah, it makes sense today. I just don't know who else the Knicks give minutes to, and he's fairly cheap. Then we've got a question here from Hayes Stable, wants to know our favorite cash plays at each position for FanDuel. All right. So over on FanDuel, favorite cash plays for FanDuel. Luka, DiVincenzo, Kuminga, Portis, and Achiuwa. Those are my favorite cash players at each position for FanDuel. And then throw in
Alex Caruso as well.
You want to throw? Would you pick him over somebody?
No, but that I'm giving an extra because technically,
okay, little bonus pick there. Bonus pick. We've got Master PJ is overweight on Trae Young by a lot. A lot he's overweight too, Trae Young. Is he crazy? Let's do a little bit more of a deep dive here. So Trae Young, he has in way overweight to his lineup. So That is not the side that I come down on. I have Trae Young in only 4% of my lineups right now. Here's the biggest issue with Trae Young. It's the opportunity cost at guard at this point. You've got Luka Doncic as a point guard. You've got Miles McBride with point guard eligibility. And those are the two players I'm getting the most exposure to at the moment. So the problem is if you're going to Trae Young, and also if you're paying up for anybody who isn't Luka, I'd just rather get to Luka. So I'd be curious to know what your Luka exposure is if you're going crazy overweight to Trae Young, but I think there's a pretty big opportunity cost there.
I believe I've got the Melissa Hardy run here. We've got, or the Melissa H run. We've got 91% Doncic, 81% McBride. How aggressive are you going? Now, I'm assuming some of that can turn into the 830 players as needed.
Yeah. So right now I have 76% Luka.
And I did give him a little bit of a nudge there.
Yeah,
Tarian Prince is my new ashamed player of the night, Greg.
Who's your new ashamed player?
Tarian Prince. I have 30%. The field's at 17.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, if you get this scenario where AD and or LeBron James are out, and I know people in chat are saying, hey, they wouldn't sit for a game in New York. If they're hurt, they're going to sit. If they can't physically play, they can't physically play. Anthony Davis has missed 2 games in a row. I know earlier in the day, you and I were doing the strategy show, and somebody told us that Anthony Davis and LeBron James were just resting recently to get ready for a game in New York. I think they were hurt. I think that's why they missed games. I consider them questionable. It doesn't mean that they're definitely going to play. It doesn't mean they're definitely going to sit either. I consider them questionable. Point I'm getting at here, EMac, is you're going to want to have a lot of Taurean Prince if LeBron and AD sit.
Agreed. I'm going to upload my lineups here, Greg. We got 7 minutes till lock. For those of you that are wondering what is going on with the stock car projections, that would be NASCAR. I guess we don't call it stock car anymore, but as soon as qualifying finishes, we'll have those up. And that is locking at 8 o'clock, and it looks like there's going to be some actual honest to God overlay on DK. So public service number 1. Any other Discord questions popping up there? I've got a couple super chats.
Yeah, let's hit on the super chats.
Hardaway or Josh Hart as the last man in? That's for Anthony Parent.
That is Josh Hart for me.
And then Corey Shea, Hardy, Dosumu, or Monk for tournaments. I'd go Dosumu. Okay. Hardy just haven't been impressed. Monk is semi-fallen out of the rotation. 4 of his last 5 games, he's played 19 or less minutes. I think it was like between 17 and 19, and he played 20-something in his last one, but he seems to kind of be the odd man out at the moment there, as Keegan Murray and Kevin Huerter are solidifying those minutes. And then, of course, the Barnacle of the Bay, Harrison Barnes. That could change at any moment, but it does seem like, what do they call him? The Monster Dunker or Duncanstein? I forget what his nickname is, but he's out at the moment.
Yeah, I've never heard of people call Malik Monk the Monster Dunker, but if that's what they call him, that's what
some funky mid nickname. The Monk Dunk.
I don't know. I don't know, EMac. I don't know. I did get a DM from Father of 3, and he's asked me, am I giving any ROI boosts on DK in the Sims tool? Anybody? No, don't feel like I need to today, just because, as we mentioned before, we already got so much value on the Knicks, and I'm getting to them so much that if players get ruled out later, I'm going to have the flexibility to pretty easily be able to swap my lineups. I don't have to make any kind of insane adjustments for that sort of scenario. Then we've got Nick Rue. Nick Rue saying it's ugly, but what is with a 3K starting Garrison Matthews tonight? So Garrison Matthews is not somebody who I'm super interested to get to. We've also got a decent amount of value on the slate, so there is going to be some opportunity cost there. We have also, don't forget, we've seen Garrison Matthews start this year. Here's what his starts have looked like. And here's the biggest issue. And also keep in mind that Garrison Matthews is dog shit as a fantasy player. He averages 0.5 fantasy points per minute. So consider that just his current points per minute fantasy rate. If you got 30 minutes out of Garrison Matthews, you're expecting around 15 fantasy points. And in his 3 starts this year, he's only playing 16 and a half minutes per game and scoring a robust 4.83 fantasy points in those starts. So there's much better value to get to on the slate than Garrison Matthews. That is a no-go for me. Einstein wants to know my thoughts on Tim Hardaway Jr. tonight. So let's see. Tim Hardaway Jr. The biggest issue I have with THJ is the amount of players that are priced around him that I just prefer. Like the Dante DiVincenzo type guys, prefer him. Precious Achiuwa, prefer him. Bobby Portis, prefer him. So with there being that many guys that project better and that I prefer in that price range, I'm only getting myself to a 3% of Tim Hardaway Jr. And that is not something that I expected to be any kind of news that would all of a sudden make me really want to prioritize Tim Hardaway or anything like that. Also, his price has gone up a little bit because of the games that he played without Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. So you're also paying close to the ceiling price point for Tim Hardaway Jr.
One last super chat, Corey Shea.
Yeah.
Is Jackson Hayes in play? Do you want to give the caveat there?
The only way Jackson Hayes is in play is if Anthony Davis and LeBron James are out, Jackson Hayes starts, and he's not projected for a lot of ownership. If AD plays and Hayes comes off the bench, I don't have interest in him. If Hayes starts and he's projected for crazy ownership because of what happened last game, I'm also not interested in him. So it's going to depend on what news breaks later. For now, the answer is no on Jackson Hayes with Anthony Davis and LeBron James both in our projections at the moment. Cream, I'm going to answer these last ones pretty quickly, Mac, to bring us to lock. If you have to take a bathroom break now, EMac, or if you got your lineups update, you go ahead and do this because I'm going to be taking command for the last couple minutes to make sure we get all these answered. Cream says, with the value I gave a boost to Sabonis, he wants to know, is 40% and 20 max too much? That is a lot more. Oh, well, he did say he still got to 100% Luka. So I was going to say that if getting to a lot of Sabonis comes at the opportunity cost of playing Luka, I wouldn't do it. But if you just like Sabonis as a pay up option and you're still able to get to Luka, I don't have an issue with that. Chalupas and Chicken wants to know is he's got a 5,800 in utility. He already has Achiuwa and Portis. Who else do I like there? All right, 5,800. Let's see. 5,800, but he already has Portis and Achiuwa. Then I'm going to tell you Trey Jones is the next man to get to. Nicola, 9292, Murray and Achiuwa or Brunson and Grant Williams. That's going to be Murray and Achiuwa for me. Master PJ has 60% Luka and 30% Young. Cool. That's not really problematic to me. Heflove says Wemby and Crowder or Draymond and Hart. I'm going to go Draymond and Hart. Iron Maiden wants to know, is 4 Knicks too many for single entry? No, not at all. The Knicks are the team I'm getting the most exposure to. I don't have any issue with you loading up on them. And that does it for us, EMac. We have reached lock here. Made sure I got to all those questions before we finished.
All right. Much appreciated, Greg. Would you like to do the honors of having us slide on out of here?
I prefer when you do it. The one thing I am going to say, though, is Rich manning the projection study. Myself, as also somebody who likes answering all your guys' questions. Rich and myself, we're going to be hanging out in Discord for the next hour. It's going to be a little bit abbreviated until we get to the end of the lock of the slate because the games are so bunched together. But Rich and I'll be hanging out in Discord. Rich will be updating projections and then also answering any questions that you guys have. Both of us will. So if you guys want to sign up for a Stochastic membership, use one of the links below and come join us in Discord. Most affordable package, $15, just underneath that, $14.95 to be more exact for the lineup generator package. It's going to build lineups for you and also grant you access to the Discord channel. Do the line, EMac. Do the line.
All right. You can follow Greg on Twitter at GEhrenbergDFS. Rich is over there at RichGreen, the number 4. That is RichGreen4. I am at EMac DFS. Of course, it is Stochastic_COM. With that, tune in tomorrow. We're going to have Sunday NBA live before lock. Good luck, gamers.